Hello and welcome to episode 497 of Ferg on the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP, or probably in a box of Kleenex at the moment. And for all different reasons, joining me also with a box of Kleenex at the moment is LeagueFreak. You can also find on Twitter at LeagueFreak. How you going there, mate?
I don't know.
Look, for those who are probably unaware, this is literally about half an hour after the NRL Grand Final for 2023 has just finished, and Penrith have raced away to a convincing 2-point win after Nathan Cleary just decided, we better score a try here with about 3 minutes to go, and so he just went and did it.
God damn, I can't believe it. I've just picked up my T-shirt. I took my T-shirt off. First of all, I want people to know I messaged Andrew when we were down 24 points to 8, and I said, "Are you good to go for a podcast tonight?" And he was like, "Because I've always felt like it's important that to front up when you lose, and to lose, and it sounds cliche, but lose like a man, Cop it." So I've said on this podcast before, sometimes you've got to eat the shit sandwich, and I think that sometimes I want our listeners to hear me chew.
They're probably sick of hearing me gnawing through shit sandwiches every week. They don't get to hear you chew on any too often.
Got to stop ordering them footlongs, Andrew. Fuck.
And I'm going for those 350-kilometre long fuckers. I'm here for a fucking feast, and I'm here for a long time.
So I messaged you when we were down. I've just picked up my T-shirt, which come off at about the 70th minute.
So this is when you started hulking up.
Well, it's wet from snot and tears. I'm not even joking. I've just picked it up and I'm like, it's fucking wet. I can't believe that. And I don't know what to say about it, because I'd accepted it. I'd accepted the loss, and I thought the Broncos played amazing. I think that's one of the best performances I've ever seen the Broncos play ever, and their young stars really stood up. Ezra Mam was tore the game open, 3 tries. That Penrith started off the game perfectly, all the possession, all the field position. The Broncos were making mistakes. But the Panthers didn't put enough points on the board, and I tweeted about it, and it made me uncomfortable. And the Broncos got back into the game at halftime, so it was 8 points to 6 at halftime. And then after halftime, just tore the game apart. 24 unanswered points, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
18.
Just before halftime, they scored all 24 of their points.
Yeah.
And they scored them all in the space of 16 minutes.
Yeah. And
were you thinking after that third try that Mam scored, were you thinking that was it, that Penrith were cooked and they had no chance?
Yes.
Because I'll tell you what I'm thinking, because Ezra Mam scored that third try in the 54th minute, precisely on the 60th minute.
Yeah.
Because I was watching with my wife and I said to her, I think Brisbane have taken their foot off just a little bit, and Penrith have sensed it. And literally 2 or 3 minutes later, Leota scored. And I was like, it's coming. And not for 1 minute did I think that Penrith were out of it. And I said,
really?
So this is crazy. They're only down by 3 tries. Because as well as the rest of us do, that Penrith can score tries in bunches.
Yeah.
Broncos are the only other team that can do it as frequently as Penrith does.
The only thing I was holding on to was that Storm game where they were down 14-0. And, that game looked over. And the contrast, the Storm looked like they were going to score 60 that day. And the contrast between them and where Penrith looked like they were just going to get annihilated in that game. And it was a split second, I thought, man, it'd be cool if they did something like they did in that game against the Storm. Now, I don't think they did quite what they did against the Storm. What they did against the Storm was like supernatural. you know.
Mm.
What they did in this game was just, like, it's hard to even say they hung in there. They didn't. It was 24-8, you know, and
They just found that other gear. They've always got that other gear. It's always there. The thing that got me about Brisbane in the second half, was they went to man very early, several occasions on that left side, and didn't give him any ball players. Just said, you just got to have line runners around you.
Yeah.
It's like, do what you want. And it's almost like Penrith thought he needs that extra ball player around. He needs Reynolds near him to help him out. And so they didn't man up properly on him. They gave him a bit of width. And that kid is so fucking fast off 3 steps that he got through that line 3 fucking times. Before Penrith went, okay, you know what, we're going to put an extra defender over there just to shut him down. The other thing the Broncos did, which I thought was a mistake tactically, was in the second half, they didn't have Haas and Carrigan on at the same time. They replaced one with the other. And that was a problem because it meant they really needed both those big guys in the middle for a good chunk of that last 20 to 25 minutes of that game.
Yeah. I mean,
they could have gone without either of them 15 minutes either side of half time if they needed to.
Yeah.
But they need him for the end, and they were making one replace the other, and I thought that felt like a bad idea to me. It didn't cost them the game, but it felt like a bad idea. They would have given that little bit of X factor oomph that was probably needed to maybe settle that Penrith surge.
Yeah, and I mean, Haas was immense. If he had won the Clive Churchill medal in the losing side, I wouldn't have been upset. I thought Carrigan was immense, and the same thing. Leota, from about the 60th minute on, become the flail of God, as I've been calling him, which is what Genghis Khan called himself just before he destroyed Baghdad. And everyone knows I love the history of the Khans. And
yes, that's right.
He became the punishment of God for the last 20 minutes of that match. And the reason I wanted to talk to you tonight, and for those that don't know, I called Andrew up about 5 minutes after halftime. Andrew has heard me bawling my eyes out and literally bawling, sobbing.
Yeah. Do you remember my response, the heartfelt response I gave?
What did you say?
I said, "Are you crying like a bitch?"
I was crying like a bitch. When we scored the first try to get back into it, I was like, it makes it I think that gets them within 10 points, right? And you know what I was thinking? It makes it respectable. No one will look at the scoreline in the history books and say, wow, they got flogged, because we were getting flogged, and it made it respectable against a great, great Broncos team. And I was talking about it you can go and look at my tweets about how good the Broncos were playing. And leading up to the game, I love the Broncos. I think everything they've done, especially over the last month or so, has been immense, and they've grown to a different level as a club. It's been incredible to see. And then we got within 10, and I was like, this is respectable. And then when we scored again, and I believe that was the try that Cleary, was that where Cleary broke through, or was that
that was the Crichton try on the edge? That's
right. I fell to my knees and I said, this can't be happening. This can't be real. And when I said it, I cried it very loudly through tears. And I think I took my T-shirt off at that point. I didn't sit down through the entire game. And then when Cleary made that break, when Cleary, because Cog had come on, and Luai was off, his shoulder's done.
Yeah.
Going to need a reconstruction. And the poor guy, you could see the disappointment in his face. I still think it didn't hit him after they were getting their rings, hey? And then when they started celebrating with the trophy, I think it hit him then that it's okay, they won.
Yeah.
And Jack Cogger come on, and honestly, it changed the game a bit. And it's not that Luai wasn't playing very well. It was just a different look. And Cogger couldn't have done any better. He just put in some footwork, was playmaking and stuff like that. And it just gave Penrith an extra point of attack. And Cleary worked off the back of that. And when Cleary went through, I turned away from the TV, put my head down on the floor against the wall and was sobbing. And was like, I was saying this can't be happening. And just, I cried for 20 minutes and I've never cried like that. And I think I said in the podcast in the last episode, the only game I ever cried for was the Storm when we beat the Storm finally in the finals in 2021 I think it was the second week. I've never felt like this. In 2003, I thought I was going to die during the grand final. I still might die tonight. You've only got 90 minutes to go, so you could probably just go and watch the replay. Look, if I die tonight, it was all worth it. You and me love our rugby league history, and to read about it and read about all these great teams that have done great things, and to know that Penrith were going in with a chance of it, and it slipped out of their fingers, and then they fought back and they got it. Man, it's and like Andrew, for the whole history of the rest of the game, this team's going to stand out, even though it's just a 40-year gap between them and the Eels. They're going to stand out, even if they all retire tonight.
Well, I think they go above that, man, because, it's 4 straight grand finals and 3 straight wins.
Yeah.
It's also, there's only one team that's won more consecutive finals games in a row, and it's that Dragons team that won 11 straight premierships. Yeah. That's now the company they're in. We haven't seen, the last time we saw teams making 4 straight grand finals was in the pre-salary cap days. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking South in the late 60s, early 70s. Obviously, the Dragon side. South in the early 50s, Balmain in the 40s, East in the 30s, South throughout the 20s. A time when teams were not equal.
Yeah.
And people need to get that in their head that that's why it's so much harder to do now, because the playing field is far more level now than what it ever used to be. So this is insane. But yeah, I must admit, I didn't once think that Brisbane had this wrapped up. And you know what the weird thing is? The reason why was that fucking penalty goal that Cleary kicked in the 30th minute. Because that kept them.
Yeah.
Not just. It kept them to a point where if they scored 3 converted tries, they were in front. Yeah. I know this is basic maths, but that plays into the back of the minds of both sides. And I think Brisbane was still constantly trying to find one more score.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't matter what it was, penalty goal or try. They needed that one more to be safe. And I know there's a few little things that they did. The short dropouts were a fucking debacle for them tonight. It was their only debacle for the Broncos was those short dropouts. They should have just sent one of them fucking long.
Yeah. And the way I would put it is, I wanted him to kick them short dropouts. And I always think, don't do what you want your opposition to do,
Yeah.
And that one where Cleary got it he just got his foot down as the ball went over the sideline, so it was another penalty from in front. And it was like, that's the thing about Cleary. He just does things that are right.
He was born with a rugby league rulebook ingrained into his DNA.
Yeah, and as soon as that happened, it was like, ooh, And like Crichton just fizzed alive at one point and was just like there's not many big game players as a centre. It's like I'm trying to, like, the ones that jump out at me. It's like Crichton, Greg Inglis, and like Mal Meninga. Maybe Renoff, maybe like
Dean Collis.
Hey,
Dean Collis.
Dean Collis.
Blake Ashford. I mean, I can go on.
Yeah. I get you. You're not wrong.
I'm trying to get my team into the conversation, even though they don't deserve to be there.
I was thinking like this time last year, Luke Garner and fucking Peachy, they'd been on holiday for 5 weeks.
Luke Garner was on his flight home after a month off.
Yeah.
Oh, what? The grand final still on? I'm surprised he still turned up to play this game. He would have gone, mate, my body is not used to this.
Like, isn't it the cricket season? What the fuck?
Yeah. How come the first test hasn't been played yet?
I don't know what to say. The last 10 minutes was a blur. I spent many of the last 10 minutes crying face down on either the ground or on the couch. My poor dog thinks I'm crazy now, and she's probably right.
It's okay. She just needs to be reassured that she'll still get fed.
Yeah. Well, she'll get fed, but I only had 2 beers all night, like 2 stubbies of VB. Like, it's not even like I'm drunk. I just don't know. I can't believe what just happened, and it's, I just can't believe it. I don't know what to say, but I wanted to be on the podcast, and as I said to you, I messaged you when we were getting flogged because I thought it was important, and that it's turned into this. I hope I'm not being obnoxious to anyone. I thought Brisbane were amazing. Fuck, they were good. They battled through injuries. I thought Reynolds was gone in the first half. I was worried at one point Reece Walsh had hurt his Achilles in the first half.
It looked like one of his teammates trod on his foot.
Yeah.
That knock that Reynolds got to his hip, I'm surprised he stayed on the field because that looked fucking hard.
Yeah.
He walked it off.
Yeah.
He did. I don't say Reynolds had a bit of a mixed game. Walsh took a lot longer than I thought to get involved in the game, but I think that was because Brisbane were just playing very straight and not much movement sideways to their attack in the first half. They were just trying to win the contest in the middle, which, look, it's a noble cause against such a good defensive side, but it's not the platform you need to lay to beat Penrith. Well, even to be competitive against Penrith. Excuse me. Against Penrith, you need to kind of target those channels just on the edge of the ruck.
Yeah.
And try and break their defence into 2 separate units and then try and find the space in the middle, which is where Reece Walsh would be absolutely brilliant because you're challenging on the sides and then Walsh just comes back through the middle and like he was doing last week. He started to probe looking for those spots, but it was more on the edge of the ruck. But yeah, I think the one thing Brisbane really good at is it's almost like it was a specific strategy just for this game was to put Mam almost isolated on the left.
Yeah.
With the instruction of run first, pass later.
Yeah.
And that was a great idea. I don't know who came up with it. That was a brilliant idea because he was electric.
He really was. And like, I mean, he was the Clive Churchill medalist at the 65th minute or whatever it was. Because he just tore the game open. If he had still won it, I wouldn't have been dirty on it. You know, they played great. They were punching holes in our pack. They dominated our forwards in the first half, I felt, and that just doesn't happen. Haas was immense. he was like a man amongst boys out there, and Carrigan was running off the back of that and was just a monster. And I mean, Billy Walters in that first half was amazing at a dummy half. That first 40-20 he kicked was just like this huge pressure relief for the Broncos. And like they thoroughly deserve. You score 20. How many teams have scored 24 points in a grand final and lost? Like it's got to be like 2 or 3 maybe. Like I think who would have done it? Like did the Dragons score 24 in 99?
24, 22.
I don't know. I'm just thinking of teams that have, like, that's a game-winning amount of points in a grand final is what I'm thinking, you know?
Absolutely. Most teams don't get there. I mean, well, Penrith scored 20 against Melbourne in 2020.
Yeah.
Is here. It's not a common thing for either side really to get to the 20s.
Yeah.
Already. Let's see. Parramatta, when they lost in 2001 to Newcastle, that was 30-24.
Yeah, damn. That was kind of a similar sort of game. Hey, like they got out to a bit of a lead and then Newcastle sort of steamrolled home.
I think the difference there, though, is that Parramatta choked epically.
Yeah.
And they should have won that comfortably.
Yeah, I can't look at the Broncos and think, like there are things, as you say, like maybe instead of going for the sidelines from dropouts, going long. But it's not
just
like,
once. Just once they needed to do it. Would have been fine.
But it wasn't like the Broncos fell apart.
No, God, no.
I can't believe it. Holy shit.
They didn't leave anything on the table. That's for sure. They didn't. They threw everything at Penrith.
Yeah.
And Penrith were struggling to come up with an answer for quite a while there.
Yeah. Yeah, they really were. And I like the Broncos will be back. I have no doubt the Broncos will be back next year because they'll learn so much from that. And like the talent is there. They've obviously got the coach. Remember when we weren't sure about Kevin Walters?
Well, he seemed a bit fragile early on. You know, he was getting a bit sooky about things not working out and stuff. You're like, oh man, come on.
And then he started coaching.
Yeah, hardened up.
So they're going to be back. I wouldn't be shocked if they win it next year because it's like they just got a real big lesson, and it's not even like, I mean, they'll be sitting in the sheds right now and they'll be like, we played fucking well, but what the hell just happened? And for this Penrith team to have done something like that, they'd already done so many special things. For them to do that as well, it's mind blowing. I can't. I've got no words for it. Hey, and
well, the thing is, okay, I'm going to give you a bit of stats here, but the one thing that's worth noting is, and if we're going to be a little bit honest here, this wasn't the ideal Penrith side because you had Luai injured and he played for 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Yo missed the last 12, 30 minutes of the game. That doesn't help. Tungo missed the last 7 or 8 minutes, I think. Oh, no, it was earlier in the game, but he wasn't there for the whole game either. He missed a bit of time. The Luai issue, that impacts their game plan entirely from what they've been doing all year prior.
Yeah.
So they've had to change their style for one game, which just happens to be the most important game of the fucking year.
Yeah.
To make sure that they still get something out of Luai, but don't have him overexposed so he doesn't get, further injured. And then still have to take him off the field shortly after half time because you just know if he stays on any longer, he's going to be targeted even further. So That's pretty impressive what they went on with there. Dylan Edwards,
Oh,
296 fucking meters.
he had 170 in the first half.
Yeah.
It was insane.
He was what Brian To'o had been for the last several years for Penrith, and that was he was getting their sets off to the best start possible.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was because the Broncos were just not they weren't kicking the ball anywhere near To'o at all.
Yeah.
They kept it away from him cleverly. To'o only made 167 meters.
Only.
Yeah, only.
He's insane.
He's on another level, this bloke. But when I say only, Cleary made 162.
That's heaps.
Yeah. You look at Leota, 148 meters. Fisher Harris, 153. Yo, 134. These guys are usually punching 150, close to 200 every week.
Mm.
Cleary was obviously on a mission to try and be the ball runner that Lua usually is, and to allow Lua to sit back a little bit.
Yeah, and like when the game looked like it was gone, Cleary, he was like, and there was a bunch of them. I mean, obviously Crichton was another one, but Cleary as well was like, okay, I got to do something, and he did. And like, I know that, we talk about the great, we did in the last episode, the great halfbacks, and they tick the boxes. What have they done? Can they go and do the next thing? Can they do the next thing? And one of the knocks on Cleary, I've seen some people say, and I think it's crazy, is that he's, you hear things like, well, they're front runners. And that's fair enough. They have been front runners in most of the games they've played. So I get that argument. How do they go when they're coming from behind? How do they go when things haven't gone their way? How do they, can they come back in a game? And no one will ever say that again about Cleary. No one will ever say about him, well, how's he playing the big games though? Like, that's over. That's finished.
It needs to be.
Yeah.
Too many people have questioned that. To be honest, that last run to the try line, he made that decision before the gap appeared, before he received the ball. Because you could see he was going out to the left, and he was moving left. And then just as the defensive line set, he stopped moving left, and he received the ball almost flat-footed and ran straight back in across the grain.
I was screaming.
And the first thing I was thinking was, excuse me, his plan was to come back in against the grain, get that defense in close in the middle.
Yeah.
And even if he was the one to take that tackle,
yeah,
he just needed two good passes, one side, it didn't matter which way it was, left or right, but two good passes to get the ball out wide, because they'd be short for numbers out there.
Yeah.
And I think as he got the ball, that was his idea. And then when he completely beat that first defender, I think it was Walsh. No, Walsh was the second one. I can't remember the first one was.
I can't remember it because, as I said, I was literally.
Yeah, I'm trying to carry the technical part for you because you're obviously in an emotional state.
Yeah, power through. Like, did Walsh get a half shot on his thigh and Cleary sort of powered through it?
Yeah, Walsh was expecting a pass to go out wide.
Yeah.
So he'd already overrun Cleary, but he was the second line of defence.
Yeah.
So when Cleary stopped moving, Walsh also stopped, but it meant that by the time Cleary got the ball, he was already two steps ahead of Walsh.
Yeah.
So Walsh had no chance of getting to him. I can't remember who the defender was in front of Cleary, though, that got beat. It might have been Reynolds.
Because I mean, I don't know who the Broncos players were that he beat, but in my head it was like, because I saw that gap open up. And like we've talked about what a good ball runner is just as a player, forget about a halfback. And it looked like Sydney heads to me, The crazy thing is that in the last 10 minutes, like the Brisbane defence did insanely good at running up on him and shutting him down. Yeah.
And they must have thought, we've done that 3 times in a row, and it stopped their attack straight away. Like, they lost 20 metres on one set play.
Yeah.
And they must have thought, we've made our point clear. He's going to play early now. And the one time they hold back and don't continue rushing up, he goes, my turn.
I didn't even see him put the ball down, hey?
He beat that defender, beat Walsh clearly.
Yeah.
And scored, and I just went, this guy is just... And this whole team, it's got his sort of emotion to it. They are so patient.
Mm.
They are so calm under pressure.
They are.
I was talking to a mate of mine he's not a rugby league follower.
Yeah.
He watches some of the big games. But I was saying to him after the game, I said, I can't think of another team that is as patient and calm under pressure in any sport other than perhaps that Australian one-day team of the late 90s with Michael Bevan in there.
Yeah, that's a really good example. The only other one I would think of is like we've had Australian rugby league teams, and I'm more thinking the 90s and maybe early noughties. Lockyer-led Australian rugby league teams where they just knew that they had the winning pedigree, and it was like everything was all right because they knew they could get the job done and they were going to get the job done.
Yeah, it was almost like they didn't know how to lose.
Yeah. And look, this Panthers, there was a blow up at one point in the game, and it was Flegler.
Oh man!
And look, I can't fault him for freaking out because I was freaking out way more in my lounge room, right? And like he freaked out over it was Walsh getting tackled in goal, and
yeah, there was some accidental knees because Walsh went straight to ground, obviously to stop being pushed into his own in goal. But as he's done that, the Panthers defender coming through has tried to get down before he got to him, but he's dropped his knees on Walsh. Might have been in his side, and one up near his shoulder, and then Crichton came through with obviously pushing him back into the in goal.
Yeah, and then
but there was nothing illegal in it, obviously.
No, and then Flegler blew up about it, and they all started grabbing these Panthers players, and like teams have done this a lot with the Panthers, and none of the Panthers ever give a fuck. They don't. The only one I've ever seen give a fuck is Spencer Leniu, where everyone panics when gets it. And remember that, I don't know if people remember, there was a game against South, I think it was a semi-final, and he got hit with a really bad high tackle, and it was a send-off high tackle. And when Spencer Leniu come back to, he was really fucking angry as he was leaving the field. And the trainers freaked out and were like horrified that Spencer was looking for this fucking guy as he's going to the sideline with a head knock, and that's the only time I've ever seen any of them really have any sort of reaction. Like there was one point where there was a bit of a coming together, and like someone was grabbing Moses Leota around his eyes.
I saw that and I thought, that's getting dangerous. And they had two cracks at him.
Yeah, and he sort of looked around as if to be like, what the fuck are you doing, Yeah,
I'll tell you what, of all the people to go for the eyes of, I'm leaving Leota, Fisher Harris, Liam Martin, Spencer Leniu. I'm leaving all those guys alone. I'll tie their shoelaces. Sorry, fellas. Wasn't after you guys. I'll just leave you be.
Leave the eyeballs alone when I'm calling the guy the flail of God. And man, I tell you what, we think of him as like a fucking powerful front rower. That guy backs up, and I can hear people celebrating. This is fucking amazing.
I can hear him.
Can you? Oh, that's cool. He backs up really well for a dude that, if you looked at him, you would say, like, he's built like a brick shithouse. He's not the sort of dude you would think backs up. And when Cleary got him that ball, I was like, he's going to score. And when he didn't put the ball down immediately, I was like, Jesus, fuck. I love that dude. Like, I fucking love that dude.
It's a It's a remarkable team. I've got to ask you now, though.
Yeah.
Which is the best of the three Panthers sides that have won premierships in the last 3 years?
In terms of not which one feels better, but which is the best team.
Yeah. Of those 3 years, which one's the best in your view?
I think it is maybe last year's team.
Yeah, I'm thinking last year's one as well.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. I think you add kick out to this team. Just add kick out to this team.
Well, also Coruscant.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that too. But just because I was thinking about this during the game, because I was like, where did it go wrong? I was thinking, well, they lost kick out, and he was the main one on my mind. And I was thinking, if they had the wrinkles that he had, forget about the fact he turned into a monster defender. Yeah, add the wrinkles that he adds to a team in attack. I was like, maybe that's where they were missing something. So I would say last year, and I would say last year in a way that there was that team had experience. And it had size, and it had all those wrinkles in attack, and you had Coruscant and kick out to it, and I mean we saw what they did against the Eels. That was a demolition job. I think that this team it's a little bit not as good in attack, but at the same time, like I think their experience helps their attack, but I think that in pure out-and-out attack, they're probably not the same.
No.
And I think sorry.
I was going to say, the one thing that's just dawned on me too is what's going to happen to the Panthers' left edge next year? Because they lost kick out for this year. They're going to lose Crichton for next year.
Yeah, May needs to turn out pretty fucking good.
Yeah, either because, I mean, it's going to be Luai parked out there.
Yeah.
If those juniors don't come along, I mean, you might end up with Garner at centre. Not that's a bad thing.
Yeah,
because he's going to be defensively good enough, but he's not going to have that speed.
Well, yeah, look,
Crichton's got.
May showed a lot in the time that he did play last year because he hasn't played this year, and he showed enough last year that it looked like he was going to be our centre or at least a winger that could play centres if needed. And when we lost him, we lost some depth, and that's where Taruva was brought into the side. He's been magnificent, NRL Rookie of the Year. We will need, if we're going to keep going, we're going to need some of our juniors to come through and maybe add a little bit punch up front or on the edges more than anything. And that's where, because our juniors, and you can see it with how we played in the lower grades this year, it wasn't like last year where we won everything except one trophy, and I think that was under 16th or 15th or something. It wasn't like that this year. And so the lower grades have been decimated a little bit, and that's okay. That's what happens when you're at a club like Penrith, that other teams come in and look for your talent, and that's it. That's fine. But I think that they do need some players to come through and do a little bit for them if they're going to be this side. At the very worst, I think they're like a top 4 good luck beating them just on experience team, Yeah. I think that's their basement.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. What do you think? Like,
I think what they're going to want is one, like you got Martin obviously on one side. You're going to need someone who's going to be a good line runner, and I think if it's not Sorensen, it's going to be Garner, but it's that's as the second rower. I think Penrith are going to need either a good ball player or someone who's fast.
Yeah.
So to put it into modern games perspective, either Matt Burton or Stephen Crichton or a clone of one of those two on that left edge at centre. Yeah. So it depends on what they really want out there. I'm just trying to think who they've got in the lower grades. I mean, Jack Cole plays centre and 5'8", so I mean he's only 20. He could probably fill in there.
They had that young, I think it was a young fullback that come in and they played him in the centres and he had a real bad game. But and like he was playing out of position. I don't blame him for that. But when he got the ball in his hands, just the way he moved, you were like, "Ooh, this guy's got a little something extra," and he might be the sort of attacking speed star because they need more speed. They're a very good defensive team, but you could see the Broncos, and the Broncos are an abnormally quick team. Like you think of Staggs, Farnsworth, Walsh, like they're all rated.
Cobbo.
Yeah, like they're 10s in speed and acceleration. But you saw that against them. Ezra Mam, he's another one, you know.
He's lightning, man.
I love watching him play. He's so good.
He would be close to one of my favourite players to watch at the moment.
Yeah,
I just love the speed he's got, man. It's the time taken to go from 0 to flat out. It's like Benji Marshall when he first came on the scene. Just that explosive speed from the start. You just don't see it very often, and he's got it there. He does have a good step, not a Benji step, but he's got a good step. Bloody sky's the limit with him.
And when he got through tonight, it was like he's through, it's over.
Yeah.
And man, 3 tries in the grand final.
Well, they revealed in the telecast that he ends up breaking the record for most tries by 5/8 in a season.
Wow, that's pretty good.
With 19. So that's another record that Trent Barrett no longer has.
Big architect.
And he broke the record for most tries by 5/8 for the Broncos, which had previously been held by Wally Lewis.
Oh, that's cool. Wow.
Yeah. So he's had a massive season, man. I would like to see Ezra Mam in the Australian squad for the end of the season.
I was thinking that as the fucker went over for his 3rd try. I was like, who? I mean, obviously Munster, or maybe if you didn't pick Munster, and it's hard not to pick Munster, but like I could see where you would fall back to maybe looking at Cherry Evans and Cleary together as a halves combination because you don't lose much with either of them. But yeah, I was thinking about Ezra Mam as earning his place in the Australian team.
Absolutely, he's had a stunning season. Now look, I think he qualifies as a Queenslander.
Yeah,
but he was born in Sydney.
Oh,
he's like a Sam Thaiday.
Yeah, that is not a Queenslander at all. You mean?
Yeah, completely not Queenslander at all.
Yeah,
but will go and play for them anyway.
Did you see before the game when they were showing the players and talking about their junior clubs and how many of the Panthers were from St Mary's?
I missed that bit, but I did see your tweet about it. Yeah,
they were like, I mean, conservatively, there must be 6 or 7 St Mary's Saints in that side. And St Mary's Saints, like I lived in Tregear, and the next suburb over was kind of St Mary's, but it was like the back end of St Mary's, and there's Ropes Creek, which like Ropes Creek, like if AIDS was a creek, it would be Ropes Creek. It's not a place you want to be in. You fall into Ropes Creek, you need all of the shots, okay? So there's Ropes Creek, and then the other side of Ropes Creek from Tregear is St Mary's. I
was going to say, Ropes Creek is where they took COVID to kill it.
Yeah. If you took COVID to Ropes Creek, it would come out with AIDS. And I make no apologies for saying that. Go to Ropes Creek and go and check it out if you're wondering. Like Ropes Creek is, I used to think that creeks all had burnt out cars in them when I was growing up, hey?
That was just normal for you?
I just thought it was normal. I really did. And so the other side of that was the back end of the footy ground that St Mary's played at, which is at the back end of their leagues club.
Yep. So
for me, my local club was St Mary's Saints, and it's produced, I mean, so many great players over the years. I think Guy played for, like anybody that's anyone that's played for Penrith has basically mostly played for the St Mary's Saints. So it was cool to see so many of them, like with St Mary's Saints juniors, you know.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about just getting Ropes Creek, that little section, and just having that as part of the West Tigers territory? Just seems fitting.
It would be pretty cool. I put it this way. Ropes Creek ran through the ammunition factory. And you don't want any of that runoff. None of it.
You don't want that.
And,
it doesn't sound that great.
And then ran into the industrial area at Dunheved. Like, it's just not a good creek.
Ropes Creek.
Yeah.
Good times. You need to find a postcard.
Fuck yeah. I would go and take a picture of it, but it's too dangerous.
No, just Google Maps.
Yeah, Google Maps it.
See if the car actually went there. But they fucking turned around too. No, we'll just stay on the main road here.
When I was a kid, I'd ride my bike down that way. I only did it a couple of times because that end was sketchy, and just burnt out cars in there and stuff. I just thought it was normal. I thought that's what a creek was.
Is that where the uncouth, underprivileged Penrith people came from?
Yeah. The ones that get all the lessons and you can be anything.
Yeah. You can run this scam, you can run this crime syndicate, you can do all this sort of stuff. You don't need money, which appeals because none of us have any.
I tell you what, Ropes Creek is the end game for a lot of people that their cars just happen to be insurance jobs, unfortunately.
I like the fact that Ropes Creek has probably got more mentions in any media anywhere in the last 10 minutes, and it will never get mentioned ever again.
100%. Well, I will make sure I mention it because I love the place. I loved growing up in Tregear. It was the best.
Why don't they put a leagues club at Ropes Creek? Ropes Creek Leagues.
It's a dirty place. It's not good.
Come on, they put a Bunnings there. It can't be that bad.
Remember there was one that tried to compete with Bunnings and it opened up and then it shut down immediately.
Masters.
Yeah. They basically built that place and didn't even get to open it. I don't even know what they use it for now.
They'd burn it out.
Probably. That's what I would have done.
It's just got burnt out cars inside it.
The number of insurance jobs that were done in that Ropes Creek, Dunheved industrial area, it's got to be some sort of record.
Good times.
Yes. Growing up, underprivileged Western Sydney lad.
So, obviously this all leads to Penrith defending their World Championship status.
Yeah, in February.
Which team do you think they're going to be absolutely destroying in the World Club Challenge next year?
I hope that they don't go over to England because I just don't care about it. And I want them to concentrate in the Premiership because that's the one that matters. And I actually watched St Helens versus who did they play last night? St Helens
Warrington.
Man, it was a bludger of a game.
Yeah.
It was a real bludger.
I saw highlights of that game and I was like, I'm glad I don't have to watch this on a regular basis. If that's what their current, 4-time winning premiership team or something like that. Yeah. If that's what they're turning out, that's the best they've got.
Did you see the crowd for it? Like, they've only got a tiny little stadium and they must have only had 7,000 people there, 8,000 people there. It was really weird. And
the official figure is, and I agree. I saw the crowd going, that doesn't look like it's very good. Yeah. The official number was 13,801.
No fucking way in the world. There's no fucking way. I watched that game and it wasn't a good game. And but I've had English fans tell me it's really rough on them to fork out the money for their season ticket and then they don't get tickets for the finals that costs extra. And the ticket, we've talked about the ticket prices over there are outrageous. So it's probably that, but I was just surprised that it wasn't packed out.
Worth noting that St Helens have currently played 31 games.
Mm.
They've got to play Catalans this weekend coming up,
Mm-hmm.
which will be the 32nd game. They win that, they go through to the final.
Mm.
That's a fucking long year.
Yeah.
They started on February 18 against Penrith, and then the premiership started the same week, or I think they got the bye in the first week because of that World Club Challenge game.
Yeah.
The season goes from mid-February, and it's still going. And those players have played less, most of them.
Mm.
Oh, the whole thing's stupid. Anyway.
It really is. I actually had somebody on my Twitter talk about James Roby had played like, I think it was 550 games plus. I think he's going to fall like one or two short of 600 from memory. And somebody said, everyone should know this number. And I was like, you know what? It's not outrageous. Like, I'm pretty sure that we've looked at players that have played like 1,100 games in England, haven't we?
I'm
almost certain.
I can't remember the official number. Who was it? Neil Fox?
It was dudes that played until they were in their mid-40s.
It wasn't Neil Fox. I can't remember who it was. Well, it might have been Neil Fox. Neil Fox played 760 games.
There you go.
That's just club football.
Yeah.
And rep football's looking at 18, 40, another 60 or 70 games. So he's probably got close to 830 games. And I'm fairly certain he doesn't have the most.
It's crazy. I wish there was one dude that I feel like it was maybe an Australian, was it? Wasn't there?
That try scoring bloke. What was his name?
Bevan.
Brian Bevan.
Yeah. I
don't even think he had the record.
He played an outrageous number of games, I remember.
But I think he played 700 odd games.
Okay.
Yeah, 670 games at club footy.
Okay, so it was less than I was thinking, but still, I mean, it's outrageous.
Oh, the number's ridiculous. I can't remember who it was now, but yeah. So yeah, I suppose 550 in the modern day though.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty insane.
Yeah, I'm not degrading what he's done. It was just a thing of like the reason that it's not one of those numbers we'll all remember is because like when you look at the numbers are outrageous to begin with, you know.
Okay, Jim Sullivan, that's it.
How many?
So he played 928 games.
Yeah.
I just got to check that. This is insane because that went around World War II.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think he played from the 20s through to the 40s. Unbelievable. He played a ton of. He even played rugby union.
Mm-hmm. Welsh.
Played a ton of rugby footy. Yeah, Welsh player. Wales' greatest son.
Yeah, his son actually played, I think, for St Helens from memory.
So he played 805 club games in rugby league. 774 were for Wigan from 1921 to 1946.
Mm-hmm.
And tests and stuff like that is 50, 60, about 105 more there.
Wow, that's crazy.
And that doesn't even include, there's another 38 games playing rugby union in Wales before he came over across rugby league. So he made great as a rugby union player at the age of 16, turning 17. Mm-hmm. Played that for a season and then went to rugby league.
It's crazy.
So yeah, pretty insane career.
Didn't he play and then like he passed away like 16 months after he retired? Something like that.
No, that was a different player. What was his name? I can't remember who that was. That was a guy who played in the 70s.
Okay.
I know the one you're thinking of. I forgot his name, but yeah, that was a guy in the 70s, and he, there was a, because he went until after he finished playing, he went on and became a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Clive Sullivan was the one who passed away.
Ah, okay.
So he retired in 1984 and he passed away in October 85.
Wow, that's crazy, hey?
Rugby league was literally keeping him alive.
Yeah, yeah.
Another great Welsh player. I mean,
Welshman.
you're just rattling off great Welsh players here.
Yeah, I'm feeling generous tonight, aren't I?
Rugby league has softened you tonight.
Yeah, it has. Man, at rugby league took me apart in pieces and then reassembled me by just smushing me back together and then threw me against the wall, and I was left a shattered mess. And I still can't believe what has happened. I can't believe it, Andrew. I can't believe that my team's the one that just did all of that. Like,
Yeah.
It's not like anything in what you take any one bit I'd have taken the 20 wins in one season. We did it back-to-back seasons. I'd have taken one minor premiership. We won 3 in 4 years. I'd have taken the one grand final against the Storm that we got smashed in. We've played 4 of them. We've won 3 of them in a row, and we have the biggest comeback in grand final history. Any one bit of that, I'd have been like, I'm good forever. And we did it all.
And haven't stopped.
I don't want to be arrogant or anything, but we're pretty fucking good.
Pretty damn good.
I'm going to play some rap music after this, hey?
I was going to say, just have a look at Nathan Cleary's career stats so far over the last 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Just looking at his win percentage.
Yeah.
2020, 90.48%. 2021, 95%. 2022, 88.24%. And this year, he's worst by far for the last 4 years, 77.27%. He has suffered, playing for Penrith in the last 4 years, 10 losses.
How about Stephen Crichton? He's played 100 games flat. He's played in 4 grand finals. He scored a try in 4 grand finals. And by the way, giant, huge, game-changing moment tries. Like, not one of them wasn't a holy shit, he just changed the game try.
And
yeah,
9 days ago, he turned 23.
That's fucking outrageous.
84% win rate in his career.
I think Tungor hasn't lost a finals game yet in his career.
He probably hasn't.
Yeah, I don't think he has. When I looked just a few months ago, Jerome Luai had a better win percentage than fucking Cleary had.
Yes.
Remember when we used to talk about the Storm and like the win percentages of their players, and we're like, they're in the 60s. This is stupid.
Yeah.
And like these guys are in the fucking 80s and 90s.
It's next level insane.
It really is. It's like they're breaking all of the modern day statistical records, like, and not by a couple of percentages, like they're fucking shattering them. And I think that's what got me tonight is like, in 100 years' time, people will look back and this Panthers team will have won 3 straight in 100 years from now. They'll have still won this 3 straight. When I'm dead, this Panthers team will still stand out. And I'm watching it now. I'm experiencing it, and I can't believe it because, as I said, you and me have grown up looking back at teams in the past and being like, what must that have been like? And to have my team doing even a bit of that, like it's not the Dragons 11 straight, which I can't even imagine. But like they're now close to like teams like that Balmain team that won like 5, wasn't it 5 in a row Balmain won at once, or maybe South it was, or
South did it a few times, I think twice.
Like Penrith have fucking done more than half of that.
Yeah. As I said, like 4 straight grand finals and 3 in a row. Just hasn't been done in the Southern Cap era.
Yeah.
Like no team's even got close to that, to be honest.
Yeah. And they're all
That's the thing. Like the only team that has gone close has been the Storm when they were cheating the salary cap.
Yeah.
Look at the players they had in that side.
Yeah.
Would this Panthers side beat that salary cap cheating side?
Man. I mean, that team was fucking good.
It was loaded.
Yeah, like Inglis is an all-timer. Smith is an all-timer. Slater's an all-timer. They had Folau. It's crazy. Their forward pack probably not as good as Panthers, I dare say. Would you agree with that?
Let's have a look at the Storm's 2009 side. Billy Slater, Steve Turner, Will Chambers, Willie Isar, Anthony Quinn, Greg Inglis, Cooper Cronk, Jeff Lima, Cameron Smith, Adam Blair, when he was actually useful.
Yeah.
Kevin Proctor, Ryan Hoffman, Dallas Johnson, Ryan Hinchcliffe, Aidan Tolman, Warangi Kupu. James Maloney was a backup 5'8". Matt Cross, Brett Finch, Brett White, Sika Manu, Dane Nielsen, Ryan Tandy turned up late, Hep Cahill. There was a pretty solid forward pack there.
It was.
With some, I suppose, reliable enough backup players, but the backup guys were never going to be starters.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a drop between the two, but the spine and the backs are next level sort of shit there.
They are. Like when you've got an Inglis, Smith, and Slater, like you're doing something crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we haven't got a Slater, and fucking Crichton's pretty good. He's not an Inglis though, and Smith. I mean, I guess the closest we have to Smith is like a Cleary, hey, where it's just like a momentum, and it's hard to argue with the resume at some point. I'm not saying he's better or anything, but it's like the resumes are really on a similar trajectory. Yeah,
I think you've got to look more at, I suppose, personality type of sort of thing. So like for Cooper Cronk, sort of matches up better with Dylan Edwards. Unflappable, makes a lot of good decisions that are often right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cameron Smith and Nathan Cleary, that's a pretty fair matchup there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to match up some of the others though. There's a bit of you can't really compare anyone with Inglis.
No.
Or Slater for that matter.
No.
I mean, the only player that a lot of people have ever been comparing to Slater was fucking Clive Churchill.
Yeah.
That's a pretty elite level fucking company right there.
And I think Greg Inglis at his best, like there was a point where people were lining him up against a younger Meninga, and I think he passed Meninga for me in terms of like being, I mean, at his best, he was just the complete package. I guess, okay, here's a question for you. Cleary is in the standings of all-time halfbacks, and I think going into this grand final, the talk of that was fucking ridiculous, right? He's 26. But after what he just did and his resume on top of that,
well, can we just say he's won more premierships than Andrew Johns?
Yeah.
Isn't he?
He has. Two versus three.
Well, let's be honest, it's 1.5 that Johns has.
Wow, how dare you? How dare you?
Hey, he only played against half the competition. That's only fair.
I guess, you know what? He needs to do, and he's only 26, he needs to do more at the rep level and for the test side to be up with, say, Johns and...
That's the thing, yeah.
Thurston and... Is that it?
That's pretty much all he needs to do in order to get into that conversation, is to prove himself as an absolute match winner at the elite level.
Because, I think we both feel like he's better than Cronk, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so then you go to a Peter Sterling.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit of a Sterling. I got a soft spot for him, man.
Yeah.
Because when he came along,
Mm.
he was playing like mid-90s football in 1980.
Yeah, yeah,
People look at him going, how the fuck did you get here?
yeah,
And he was so insanely talented that even the coaches didn't know where they should put him. But
yeah.
obviously, he's a ball player. We've got to put him in the spine somewhere. But I'm pretty sure he made his debut as a fullback.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll have to check this out. But I know he did play one or two games very early on in his career at fullback.
A little bit like Greg Alexander, right?
Yeah, but I think they were kind of unsure. No, so his first game was off the bench in 1978. His second game was a semi-final, and he played fullback in the semi-final
Wow.
against Man. And then he was 5/8 the week, round 1 of 79, and then halfback. Round 2, 4 more games at 5/8, and then halfback ever since.
Okay.
So they couldn't pigeonhole him somewhere. They went, we know you need to be around the ball, but you're not doing things that people normally do. We don't know where you fit. It's kind of like when Greg Inglis came along.
Yeah.
We don't know if you're a centre, a 5/8, a fullback, and the fact that we chop and change around everywhere and you dominate all those positions is not fucking helping us.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing is too, when you look at when Sterling first started and his contemporaries as halfback, it's like Tommy Raudonikis, a big, strong dude, because they're playing 5 metre rule, you know.
Yeah.
Even Steve Mortimer, in terms of skill set, is a step back from what Sterling was. And Mortimer was a very good player. But the level between, say, like Sterling's skill level compared to everyone else at the time was a completely different thing, and, you know, opened the door for the modern day halfback, really.
I mean, there's only genuinely 2 halfbacks who would be able to make Wally Lewis take a back seat, and that was Sterling and Langer.
Yeah.
And you've got to be in that fucking category with those 2 people in order to put someone like Wally Lewis, just say, you know what, how's about, fella? You just take a seat back there, all right? I'll call on you when I fucking need you, yeah?
Yeah, and the other thing is, too, by the way, fucking Wally Lewis being like, yes, this is what I want. This is your team. Like, and embraced it and knew. Like, that's another thing too. So that's the thing about Cleary. I think that we get into that area where it's like it becomes murky waters when he moves into the Sterling, Langer, Stewart area, but it's because that representative level of stuff is not quite there. But he's only 26 as well.
And look at the other thing too that makes it hard to do it at the international level.
Yeah.
Is the level of competition at the international level now for Australia is nowhere near as strong as it was in the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
And so it's harder to stand out and come up with clutch plays when you really need them to keep a test series alive or win the Ashes or anything like that, or keep in the World Cup when half the games you play, you're just built the living shit out of a team.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the other thing is too, like back then, a big focus for Australian Rugby League was in international footy, and like that's been turned right down now. Where, international footy is behind Origin and then the Premiership these days. Whereas back then, and I've said this before, is where the passage of time in rugby league used to be marked by international football.
Exactly right. Everything was designed and built towards rep football. Like we played several rounds of footy, and then we had city versus country, and that game was from the get-go when they first started up in the 20s as a regular feature was about selecting the best players to play for New South Wales. to take on Queensland. And that game was the selection trial to find out who was going to play for Australia. It was a nice little flow the whole way through. And it was very, very rare that a player would end up playing for Australia if they hadn't have played in the two rep games prior, the City versus Country and the Origin game, or the New South Wales Queensland game. You had to sort of come through the whole range. So it was you'd genuinely earn your way up there. And it's something that I think a lot of people lose sight of when they start trying to compare not just Cleary, but any players with past greats, is past greats had to earn through club football and then two other tiers of rep football their right to have that Aussie jumper on. Whereas now you can go straight from a really good club career or club season to getting a test jumper, having never played any other rep footy. I mean, Chris Lawrence. And that's not to say he didn't deserve that test jumper he got. I mean, there'll be people who say that there are others that probably could have got it, but Chris Lawrence, when he became a test player, was not a shit player. He held his own and he was perfectly fine in that jumper. So, you know, it's a lot easier to do these days to just go straight into the test side, having not played any other rep footy, whereas that was basically unheard of prior to the 90s.
And like the level we're talking about, Nathan Cleary has won a World Cup, and me and Andrew are both still like, he's got to do some stuff yet, you know, which is that's how high the standard is. Like Andrew Johns, how old was he when in 95 when he was playing hooker, and he was
that was his second season.
Yeah, like what was he, 21, 20?
Well, look, let's be clear. Everyone's got this impression that Andrew Johns made his debut in 1994 and he scored 20-odd points on debut, and that is inherently wrong.
Yeah.
Because he played 3 games in 1993, all off the bench, and didn't score a point in any of them before he had that his debut game at halfback in round 1 of 1994. But that was his 4th NRL game.
Because I remember at the 95 World Cup because he was played a lot at hooker, and everyone was like, what the hell are we looking at? There's this dude that's a young halfback who defensively is just fantastic, and is like, if at that point someone flicked a switch and he stays at hooker for the rest of his career, he's probably the best hooker of all time.
Yeah. So he made his first grade appearance as a hooker in the second round of the 1995 World Cup against Fiji. And then he stayed there for the next game against New Zealand, and then stayed there for the final against England.
Yeah, he might have got man of the match in that game too. It was
and then I'm pretty sure the only other times he played hooker was for New South Wales.
Yeah.
And was it Tuvey who was the halfback?
It was.
Tuvey was halfback.
Did he also play hooker to have Kamali at halfback as well at one point?
Sorry, what was that?
Did he also play hooker so that Kamali could play halfback at one point as well?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I was pissed off about that.
Yeah. The crazy thing is that
hooker as well for New South Wales and was amazing.
Yeah. Unbelievable. He also played hooker in 1998 against New Zealand so that Langer could play at halfback.
Yeah.
How's this for a spine? Australia versus New Zealand in 1998. Darren Lockyer, Kevin Walters, Alan Langer, Andrew Johns.
You know what? I think 98, was that the mid-season test?
No, that was the end of season.
Okay.
That was played at Suncorp.
Okay, because there was a mid-season test, and I feel like it was 98, but I could be wrong. I'm almost certain it was 98. And I went to their training session at Holsworthy Army Barracks. I had some inside help. And it was cool. I was the only fan there.
How was that? Did you say 98? There was an Anzac test, but that was played at North Harbour.
Okay. Well, what about 90? Was it 99 then? Training in Sydney, and it was for the Anzac Test at the time.
Yeah, that was Stadium Australia.
Okay, and Wendell Saylor.
Yep.
After the training session, Wendell Saylor's out there, and he had lost, and he was saying this. Okay, so I'm just going by what Wendell Saylor was saying. He had lost a $10,000 diamond stud earring while he was training, and they were looking for it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and I've got footy signed by that entire side, so that was cool.
There's a few handy 5'8" in this side for Australia.
Yeah, hit me with them.
Darren Locker at fullback.
He's all right.
Future Titans 5'8", Matt Rogers was on the wing.
Okay.
Laurie Daly at centre.
Yeah.
Brad Fittler was at 5'8".
Yeah, wow.
Jason Smith was at lock.
Wow. On the Durries.
On the Durries. Andrew Johns, the halfback, was at hooker, and Alan Lang was the halfback.
Fuck, that's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
That is. That's insane.
And they only beat New Zealand by a converted try.
Well, one of the best tests I've ever seen, and I can't remember if it was 98 or 2000, 98 or 99, sorry. And it was they had a Tri Nations at the end of the year, and I feel like it was like Australia just beat New Zealand in the final. And
I remember that.
It was a crazy good game. It might have been 98, but I can't quite remember. But it was when they'd come back together, and it was like the first shot across their bow by New Zealand because it was like that era where they had like Nigel Wagner in the side, and they had some really handy players, you know. And it wasn't that era of players that would go on and beat Australia in the World Cup eventually in 2008, but it was like a shot across the bow is the way I'd describe it.
1999, New Zealand in the 3 games leading up. New Zealand beat Australia 24-22.
Mm-hmm. Australia
beat Great Britain 42-6.
Mm-hmm.
New Zealand beat Great Britain 26-4, and then Australia beat New Zealand 22-20 in the final.
Yeah, and that was the best test I had seen for many years until probably the one in 2008, the World Cup final, which, I mean, that was as history, that moment, so it's hard to go past that. But then there's been so many good tests after that. Man, we're going deep diving here. Deep diving.
We're doing a bit of deep diving. It's a bit of a distraction, just sort of mellow you out a little bit before you go down to the Penrith train station and really kick into top gear with the celebrations.
I'm going to train station the hell out of that train station.
So what's on the agenda as part of the celebrations for the next 3 or 4 months?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do, I won't go out and get amongst it because I think it'll be a bit crazy. And if I'm feeling these emotions myself, I can't imagine how the rest of the Panthers base is feeling. I'm sure that there are probably a lot of people that were getting smashed, you know, at about 60 minutes in. And so I probably won't go out into it, although I know Nadine might be, which will be interesting. I'll get her on this week.
She's probably down there starting shit.
Probably
with Broncos fans.
Yeah, just fist fighting people, you know.
Yeah.
Nadine loves a good knife fight. But so I will see when they're going to do their grand final like celebration. I'm hoping it's not tomorrow morning because I'll think I'll be passed out by then. I'm not going to get smashed tonight, but I've been so wrecked emotionally tonight. I'll probably pass out after this podcast. But I want to go to the Panthers Leagues Club at some point this week and just soak it all in. And then we've got the test match series is coming up. So obviously you and me will be all over that. But I think that just enjoying what's happened and just celebrating it. And I'm good. If we don't make the finals next year, I'm good, man. This has been the best ride ever as a footy fan, and for it to be the sport I love and to be my team and stuff. If I'd watched another team do it, I would be really excited and happy for them and stuff like that. For it to be my team, it makes me want to bawl my eyes out again.
Well, look, this is where we unveil the big surprise. And next year,
Mhm.
you're going to go for the West Tigers, and I'm going to go for Penrith.
We're swapping.
I made a tweet during the game when Brisbane scored those 3 tries in a row.
Yeah.
And I said, the Panthers' right edge defence looks like the West Tigers in the last 10 minutes. Is not Falumba on loan to them?
I saw that. I think I favoured it. Hey.
Yes.
I was mourning at that point.
Well, Ben Darwin, who we've had on a few times from Gainline Analytics,
Yeah.
he replied in all honesty saying the numbers were actually pretty similar.
Oh, really?
So data-wise, yeah. Penrith were defending like the West Tigers in that 10-minute period.
I messaged him yesterday and I was like, give me something. Basically said, give me something to work with here. I'm freaking out. And he was like, numbers aren't that different. And last year they were different. And he was like, the numbers this year between teams aren't that different. I was like, fuck. Now I'm freaking out more. And he messaged me tonight after the game. So that was very nice. And most of the people that messaged me on Twitter have been beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. There was a couple of people, and I understand completely because I felt the same way, who about the 60th minute of the match were like, oh man, I think you spoke too soon. Hey, and stuff like that. And I completely agree. And I was thinking, shit, maybe I did. But everyone's been lovely on there and so many congratulations and stuff like that. I can't take all the credit, but I
want to take the entirety of the credit.
Yeah.
Because 5 minutes after I made that tweet,
yeah,
Penrith scored their first try, made the comeback, and I quote tweeted my tweet and says, I know how to fire up the Panthers.
Oh, did you?
So I'm responsible 100% for Penrith winning that grand final. You're welcome.
Thank you.
That was my gift to you for Christmas.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're a lovely person.
All I ask in return
is
for you to get rid of Pascoe, the hat-wearing dickhead.
Yep.
Pretty much all of the players who aren't NRL quality. Get us an NRL premiership winning side that can win a title in the next year or two. Stay there.
You basically asked me to fold your club at this point. Fuck.
Yeah. Well, and just bring them back as Balmain Tigers.
Just bring back Balmain.
But they can play anywhere, but just call them Balmain Tigers. I don't care where they play from.
Okay.
There's a street in a suburb not far away here called Balmain Court. They could just represent that street. I don't care.
That'd be fine.
I'm fine with that. But yeah, I'll leave that with you, and then we'll be square.
Okay, I'll work on that over the off season.
Yeah, I'll give you 30 or 40 decades. So you don't need to rush.
Excellent, because it's going to take some time.
Yeah, look, I assume it will. And another friend of ours also made a tweet saying the NRL entertainment should either be, 1, a supergroup composed of the Wiggles, Jimmy Barnes, Shannon Knoll, and Harold Bishop from Neighbours on the tuba, or 2, a Rocker Stefford-style performance put on by the wooden spoon winning team. And I said 3, the bottom 2 teams play off with a spoon, tries scored are worth 1 point each, and tries conceded cost you 8 points. Putting that on, you're just taking points off every team the whole game through.
It'd be like darts.
That's it, yeah. You're just counting down from 501.
By the way, how good was, and I don't know the name of the lady that was singing, but the Tina Turner performance before the game was fucking amazing.
Unfortunately, I just missed it because by the time I got home from work, I turned it on and I was watching the Panthers players in the dressing room.
Okay, I you know what I'm like about pre-game stuff. I fucking hate pre-game shit.
Yeah.
I was locked in and she was so fucking good. She was amazing. And I ended up watching the Kiss doing the AFL Grand Final. I listened to a lot of Kiss and a lot of Kiss live stuff at night. And seriously, that Kiss performance, they were sleepwalking that. That was like a 2 out of 10. It was.
Well, most big name bands that come over here to do either the AFL or NRL Grand Final entertainment do tend to just phone it in.
Yeah.
I think 2016 they couldn't even get all of Bon Jovi's group over. They just got Richie Sambora.
Did they?
Yeah, and he just turned up with a guitar and got someone else to do the singing of Bon Jovi's hits.
Oh, wow.
It was like, really?
Because
that's it?
I saw people going like, "Oh, Kiss was amazing." I'm like, I know Kiss. Kiss was not amazing on the day. I didn't watch the game, but I did see the Kiss performance. And because who wants to watch that fucking blood driver sport?
Well, look, I can tell you that in the AFL, Brisbane lost by 4 points.
Okay.
And in the NRL, they've lost by 2 points. So, sad times up in Queensland. But at least they've still got the Origin, I guess, to hang their hat on.
Yeah, how do you reckon the Broncos feel about losing tonight?
I don't think they're going to be that disappointed. Because the first thing, if I was Kevin Watters, I'd say to them is, boys, don't get disheartened. That team that you lost to tonight, who have just won 3 straight premierships, 4 years ago, they lost a grand final.
Yeah, 100%. And it was a similar sort of situation. Like when we lost to the Storm, we fucking lost to the great Cameron Smith Storm, Yeah.
And it also come off the back of a poor season the year before.
Yes.
So, and kind of like the Broncos, like they didn't have a poor season the year before, but coming into this year, no one was looking at the Broncos and saying they're going to be in the grand final for sure.
No.
But people were going, they're going to be in the 8 somewhere, but they were never taken seriously as a genuine threat. Even I was not 100% convinced of them late into the season. Like I wasn't saying they were easy beats or they were shit or they didn't deserve to be there. It was more that I hadn't seen enough of them to convince me that they deserve to be that team in the top flight group until the final started.
Oh.
And they found that extra gear. And I was like, okay, this is a team that can threaten the Panthers.
Yeah, and it wasn't the normal progression. It was something special they were doing. Like it was, what reminded me a little bit of, and I might have said this, was the 2003 Panthers where you wondered about it, but then when they got to the finals, it was like, oh, you don't have to worry about this team. They're fucking there already.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a quote by Cooper Cronk during the week.
Mm-hmm.
He says, he feels the Broncos this year a little bit like the Storm of 2006. We were all young, fast, fit, and on the cusp of something. So,
Harvey Norman vouchers and free boats, and
I hope the Broncos fans enjoyed that performance. Could be some salary cap drama coming next year.
If you know what, say it comes out tomorrow, Panthers salary cap, I'd be filthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would be very disappointed. I'd be embarrassed for the club, but everything they achieved wouldn't have left what I've enjoyed.
Of course not.
Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of weird.
It is, yeah. Well, I want to round it out with something that I found that's completely unrelated to anything.
Okay.
For the last few months, I've been doing a lot of research on the Queensland Rugby League, the results in their club competition up there.
Yeah.
And I was just going through one of the newspapers there, and underneath a bunch of banking news and job ads and stuff like this, there's just this random throwaway line.
Mm-hmm.
It's not connected to anything. They've just got 2 lines above it, and this one line, and nothing else around it. It just says, "A woman doesn't need to be a good cook to roast her husband."
Oh, that's good.
That's it.
Yeah.
Random quips in the newspapers of 1912.
Reminds me a little bit of, is a quote, I love watching Charles Barkley. I think Charles Barkley is like a gift from heaven. And he tells a joke, why do you never give a woman a watch?
Why's that?
Because there's a clock on the oven. And he's saying it to take the piss out of that sort of stuff. But when he tells that on TV, Chris Webber loses his fucking laughing. It's so funny.
Did you see in the pre-game? I had to watch on Channel 9. There's fucking Scottie Pippen there.
I did. And like Scottie, and for people that don't know, Scottie Pippen is on a fucking misery tour where he's just basically shit talking Michael Jordan for the last 18 months.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, and so to see him there instead of like game analysis was fucking weird.
I was looking at him going, of all the people you could talk to on Grand Final day, a fuck ton of legends who have played the game, immortals the like. Some of them are employees of Channel 9, and say to them, what goes through your mind as you're sitting in the sheds before you got to come out? That sort of insight and stuff, which is a bit wanky, but it fills the time. Or you get the players from the past, We're comparing them at this stage to that great eel side of the early 80s. Sterlo's available.
100. I was just thinking, I would love to see what Peter Sterling has to say.
Have a chat with him.
Yeah.
You've got his details.
Yeah.
Sterlo, just pop round. Right? There's a bunch of those Dragons players from the 60s and 70s, 50s and 60s that are still alive. You can still chat to them.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to some people who've been able to, build up a bit of emphasis about what it is the Panthers are achieving here. Talk that up a bit. Scotty Pippen. And the first thing he mentions is, I was here watching the AFL yesterday and going,
yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Scotty.
That was so strange, and he seems like a real miserable dude. Like when you hear some of his quotes about Michael Jordan and teammates and things like that, it's like, stop burning bridges, Scotty.
Yeah, I don't know. If I'm in a successful sporting organisation that has a fucking meal ticket by the name of Michael Jordan in there, I'll shut up.
Yeah, not talking down, like you can't question what Michael Jordan did either. It's like,
well, no, but I mean, the fact that he played alongside Michael Jordan would 100% have had a massive impact on how much he got paid compared to what he would have got if he was at another team that wasn't winning titles.
100%.
So, just shut up and take it,
When Scotty Pippen went from the Bulls to my Rockets, right? And we called him Scotty Quitten because he fucking shut it down, and he ended up talking shit about Charles Barkley and fucking Hakeem Olajuwon. Like, are you serious? And he ended up getting moved on to the Portland Trail Blazers, who were called the Jail Blazers at the time, which were a fucking amazing team, but they were called the Jail Blazers. So there's a reason for that.
All righty. Well, look,
sirens and shit. This is great. We're gonna fucking tear Penrith apart tonight. There's gonna be nothing left. It's gonna look like fucking Campbelltown when we're done.
Next year.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the Penrith Panthers. It's going to be the Ropes Creek Panthers. All of Penrith is just going to become a massive suburb of Ropes Creek.
Oh, shit.
Well, you go and enjoy yourself.
Yep. Thank you for answering the phone today when you did, and thank you for listening to me just lose my mind. That was awesome. I'm so glad that we got to share that.
Absolutely. Likewise. And one day we might be able to have that same sort of conversation, knowing that my team actually played within a few weeks of your team playing in the grand final.
I want you to ring me up with the same reaction when the West Tigers make the finals.
I know mine will probably be like that. The tears and everything when Pascoe or the hat wearing dickhead both leave. that will be my grand final victory.
That'll be it. You just ring me up immediately. I've only ever rang up Andrew. I think that was the second time ever. Hey, on the phone directly.
Third time. I think we did one initially when we were setting up the podcast.
Okay.
And then we spoke when we were up in Sydney recently earlier this year. Oh, and then that time.
That's right. Yeah.
That was it.
Oh shit! Fucking hilarious, eh? Yeah, I can't believe it. I hope everyone enjoyed the game, and I still can't come to terms with that game, and I hope I survive. I just hope. I'm like that guy that, remember, he scratched the scratchy ticket and won $250,000, and then they made him recreate it, and he won like another $250,000. I'm like that guy, and the first thing he says is like, "Please don't kill me." I'm like that.
Except you actually had a third lotto ticket that you won as well.
Yeah, it's fucking. Oh man, I can't believe it. I can't believe
Some people have all the luck.
it.
It's funny though because we keep edging towards closing out this episode and then not. But when you consider that the Panthers went for nigh on 20 years without even making it close to the final series, to now be a team that seems to be unable to miss a grand final,
Yeah.
that's quite a remarkable turnaround.
Look, what maybe, and I tell you what, I can't think anyone worse, but one of the worst expansion teams ever for the first, 15 years we worked out, 16 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And then to go from that to like, I remember in 2019 bragging on Twitter that we'd made a grand final in the 90s, in the noughties, and at the end of the teens. And I was like, how cool's that?
Yeah. You can go back to that post and go, yeah, what the fuck would I know?
People were talking shit to me as well. They were like, oh, that's nothing. We've won 3 grand finals in that time. You've only won 2 and stuff. And now everyone can shut the fuck up. 2020 was the year of arrogant league freak. Here it's coming.
That's right. Well, you know what? How many grand finals can you win in a row before the arrogance is acceptable?
I think 3's acceptable.
I think so too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, on that final amazing note, thanks for tuning everyone to the NRL season. It doesn't end for us because, as Freaky said earlier in the episode, we've got a lot of international footy coming up, and we don't have an off season, so we're not going anywhere. But enjoy your Mad Mondays, and catch us all next time.